2.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Girls on Deck. I'm Hannah Jo Groves, and my co-host Kayla Burge is out of town today, so with me will be one of the smartest people I know, Kelly Campbell. Kelly and I will be joined by trivia show runner-up Grant Wheeler to talk about this past week's NFL primetime games and our picks for this upcoming week. Then Ross Bernstein will talk with us about some of the NBA's new rules and how they're affecting some of the top athletes. Girls on Deck starts now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
All right, now before we get anything started today, I want to introduce my co-host for this episode, the beautiful, amazing, and talented Kelly Campbell. Kelly, how are you doing today?
Hannah, I'm doing great. Cam Newton's a Panther, and
That's right.
I'm so excited.
You're really feeling good about that? I mean, you should after yesterday.
Seeing him score a touchdown and with the #1 jersey on again. But now that I've been introduced, let me introduce our guest for the segment, Grant Wheeler. Grant's done a lot of great work behind and in front of the camera this semester, but this is his first time on Girls on Deck. Grant, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Kelly. I want to thank both of you for having me on the show today. I know, Hannah, we've been trying to get me on the show all semester long, but hey, we made it happen. Here we are, and I'm ready to talk some NFL talk with you guys.
Yes, and if you haven't already, make sure to watch Main Show because Grant will be hosting that. We're taping that later on today, but it will air on Monday, so be sure to watch it if you haven't already. But let's get right into it. This past Monday night, not yesterday, but the week before, we saw the Chicago Bears with rookie quarterback Justin Fields go up against Big Ben and the Steelers. After an unsuccessful first drive, the Steelers showed their dominance. Chase Claypool had a big 26-yard catch to give the Steelers good field position, but it was the rookie, Najee Harris, who found a hole and ran into the end zone for the first touchdown of the game. It was his 6th for his first NFL season. The Bears had only managed 2 field goals by the end of the third quarter, and that's when Pat Freiermuth caught a pass with a very tight window from Big Ben to get his second touchdown of the game. But the Bears didn't give up. After a pretty good drive down the field for Justin Fields and the Bears, Darnell Mooney ran for 15 yards into the end zone to make it a 7-point game, and the Bears didn't stop there. A huge moment in this game was when the Steelers fumbled the ball after a punt, and DeAndre Houston Carson picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown. And soon after, a great pass to Robinson got the Bears in position to score again. Darnell Mooney with his second touchdown, but this time he caught it instead of running it in. Unfortunately, all that wasn't enough for the Bears. The Steelers kicker Chris Boswell made a 40-yard field goal to get 2 points ahead of the Bears, and the Bears kicker Cairo Santos missed what would have been a game-winning 65-yard field goal by like a foot. Kelly, I want to start with you. How did the Bears surprise you during this game?
Honestly, Justin Fields surprised me a little bit. He was looking better than he has looked, in my opinion. Still struggled with the interception. But let's move to Thursday Night Football.
Well, not yet. I want to keep talking about Monday for now. But so, Kelly, you're kind of a college football expert here, and you're talking about Justin Fields. So, how is he compared to his college days? Like, are you thinking he's learning more? Do you think he still has a lot more to go? What are you thinking?
I think he definitely needs a couple years under his belt. Justin Fields was super impressive in college. I feel like as soon as he got there, he kind of just fit right into Ohio State's offense and how they played. And I don't think that's quite the situation that he's having here in the NFL. He's playing with guys who are exactly at the same level as him, if not better. Whereas Ohio State, he was kind of that guy. So I think he needs a little bit of time under his belt, and I think he could be great, but it's a timing thing. We need to give him more time.
Definitely. Grant, what do you think about Justin Fields?
Yeah, as Kelly touched on, Justin Fields has a long way to go. He's only a rookie. I do have faith, though, as time goes on, he will develop into a polished quarterback. And he had, at the beginning of the year, actually back in the preseason, he did say, the NFL feels slow to me. Well, not so fast. He's had multiple welcome to the NFL moments. He's also had some really good moments as well. And Monday night, the fact that he was able to lead that comeback despite losing the game still that impressed me.
Yeah, it was impressive. I think he learned even within the game of placing his ball into a spot where only the receiver can get it, if that makes sense. So,
he did that a lot in college, so it was great to see it reflect in the NFL.
Yes, and he was having trouble with that, but even throughout this game, he was improving on it. Lessening the chances of an interception there. But I think what he needs to work on, which is also something that the rest of the rookie quarterbacks need to work on, is reading the defense and making the call right before the snap. So changing what you're doing. He didn't look, he's not aware enough of what the defense is doing. If they're blitzing, he needs to change what he's doing. Or if they're, having 3 people and then more people in the secondary, he needs to adjust, and he's not quite doing that yet. But let's talk about another rookie here, Miss Kelly. I know you know a lot about Najee Harris. What are you seeing now compared to college?
Najee has been impressive since high school, as my sister's boyfriend will not let me forget that Najee trucked him as a young freshman. Najee has been impressive since Bama, and honestly, to see him work so well in his offense, he did great. He was very impressive, and that was his 6th touchdown of the season.
Yes.
So I'm super impressed by the rookie, and I think he's going to have a fantastic next few years.
Yeah, definitely. And he was impressive yesterday, even though they had a really rough game. But Grant, what do you think of Najee Harris?
I'm very impressed with Najee Harris. I've liked him since he was in college at Alabama. Fantastic in all 4 years with the Crimson Tide. Has really shown out his rookie year with Pittsburgh. He's kind of like the motor of that offense now. Considering that Big Ben is on his last legs, they can't rely on his arm as much, so they have to rely on Najee Harris's legs to move the ball on the ground, and that's what they've been doing, and primarily that's kind of how they've been moving the ball this year, through him.
Yeah, definitely. He's always been impressive, like you said, Kelly, and I'm excited to see him go throughout the season. I think he's one of the more impressive rookies that we've been watching so far.
I definitely agree.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you about Thursday night, but let's move to that. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, it's okay. I was just getting so excited. My fantasy quarterback, Lamar Jackson with the Ravens versus the Dolphins. Who would have thought, first of all? But now Jacoby Brissett played in the quarterback position for the first half of this game, and he did all right. But the second half, when Tua came in, is where things started to get pretty interesting. That's when Tua and Myles Gaskin did a little flea flicker, and when a lineman almost got a touchdown but got flagged for being an ineligible receiver. But in the fourth quarter, after the Dolphins defense had kept the Ravens at 1-10 on a 3rd down, officially turned this game on its head.
I forgot.
Xavier Howard picked up a fumble and ran for 49 yards into the end zone for a touchdown, and a huge spike in the momentum for the Dolphins. And even though Mark Andrews caught a 5-yard pass from Jackson after the Ravens' best drive of the game, the Dolphins clipped it off with Tua himself sneaking into the end zone for a win and a pretty huge upset. Hannah Jo, what impressed you about this Dolphins defense on Thursday?
A lot of things did. And you know the phrase that defense wins games? I think this Dolphins defense won this game.
I agree.
Yeah, they kept Lamar Jackson pressured. And Lamar Jackson is pretty good at getting out of pressure usually. He can usually use his feet to get in and out, and, he's usually fine. But no, he wasn't. The Dolphins found a way to keep him at bay. And like you said, Kelly, they were like 1-10 on converting 3rd downs. They just could not get it together. They converted 1 and maybe made it to the end zone 1 time, I think.
They held my fantasy quarterback under 16 points.
I know.
I don't think that's happened the entire season.
I don't think it has either. And I was lucky, Kelly, because he's my fantasy quarterback too. I had him out for this game. Bless. Thank goodness. But Grant, what did you think about this Dolphins defense on Thursday?
Really caught me by surprise. This Dolphins team looked like they were going down a dark path. Thought that they were going to be like playing for draft picks at this point, but no, they surprised everyone across the country, putting up a tremendous fight against the Baltimore Ravens, winning by double digits at home against a Super Bowl contending team or maybe at least an AFC title contending team. Lamar Jackson, I was surprised he couldn't get around the Dolphins defense. What was he doing out there?
He didn't look like himself.
Definitely not.
Yeah, what do we think that's about?
Maybe the Ravens' offensive line just had an off night that night, and the Dolphins' defense, maybe they just came prepared. Brian Flores maybe was looking ahead to that game and just said, hey, Lamar Jackson's on our schedule. We got to circle this on our calendar and just keep an eye on him, and they did that.
Yeah. Kelly, what do you think?
I think also the Dolphins had the fans' support. There was a lot of people there. It got loud, and once that momentum started kicking in, the fans got into it. They haven't seen the Dolphins play good in quite some time. So when you get that momentum, especially against a team nobody thinks you're going to beat, the crowd's going crazy.
That is so true. And I got to shout out Kayla because we literally a few weeks ago were talking about the Dolphins and what they need to do to, start winning games. And part of that, which I want to go into, is utilizing Jalen Waddle. I thought they did a better job this time. He was catching more deep passes, which is what we saw from his career in college. Kelly, of course, I want to ask you, what are you seeing from Jalen compared to college days?
I think it's reflecting well. I think he's putting the work in, continuing to do well in the NFL. I think he's going to need some more time.
Yeah.
As all newer guys to the NFL do, but he looks good and he's fitting well with his team. So I'm very excited to see where he's going to take in the future.
Yeah, I think time is definitely the game. Grant, what did you think about switching out Jacoby Brissett for Tua in the second half of this game?
I think Miami made the right decision. Like, if Jacoby was hurt, like, you don't want to, make things worse than it already was. Like, if he was hurt, like, just keep him out on the sideline. Don't make the injury worse than it already is. And plus, Tua, he is their starting quarterback. He should be getting all the reps, despite, like, his inconsistencies. He's only in his second year. There's still going to be growing pains. And look, when he came back in the game, he led them to victory. He managed the game well, and that's all he needed to do on that Thursday night game.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But that's what Tua does best. He comes in the second half, wins the game. He's not supposed to win, just like he did in college.
Yeah, there we go. See, I love the college football expert on the show. Okay, great. Well, so let's go to Sunday night's game. Had the Chiefs going up against the Raiders. Both teams have struggled so far this season in differing areas, but the first touchdown of the game was after a great 89-yard drive with Tyreek Hill making the catch in the end zone. It was his first of 2 touchdowns on the night. But the Raiders kept it within reason through the beginning of the second half, with Carr throwing for 24 yards to Bryan Edwards, who made a great grab and stepped into the end zone so that only 3 points separated the teams. But the Chiefs broke away pretty quickly, and Patrick Mahomes gives us his Mahomes magic, running out of pressure and for what I thought was going to be the first down, but then throwing over the defense into the hands of Noah Gray to give the Chiefs a dominant lead, which ended up winning them the game. Grant, one of the main areas of criticism I've heard about the Chiefs this season is their lack of patience on offense. Instead of throwing short passes, focusing on developing the run game, Mahomes has been throwing impatient deep passes, trying to put on a show. Do you think that they showed improved patience in Sunday night's game?
They did. Now, granted, they were playing against a defense that's not that good in Las Vegas, but I think we need to see more out of the Chiefs as the season goes on to see if they're really about that. I know they're obsessed with the home run ball. They're obsessed with the big plays. Just take what the defense gives you, and if they do that, they should continue to improve.
Yeah, Kelly, I thought the Chiefs did pretty good last night. I thought they were patient. The Raiders have got a lot of things off of the field affecting them right now. We've got the whole John Gruden situation, which, of course, he's now suing the NFL and Roger Goodell.
Right.
And then we've got Henry Ruggs, who was a huge threat to their deep pass. He was a huge threat there, and that's just kind of absent now.
Right.
And then we've got another receiver also out because he was seen with a loaded gun making death threats on a video. How is this affecting this Raiders team?
Well, the Raiders organization right now, it looks messy. But just like you have in a normal company, you're going to have some employees that aren't going to fit your standard. You need to handle them correctly, get them the help they need, figure it out, get the next guys in. This is a multi-million-dollar league. Fans are spending tons of money to come see these teams play, and I know they're spending tons of money for these guys to play here. Why? They need to be successful. They need to take care of their off-the-field issues and move on.
So you're saying this is not an excuse for them to not do well?
Absolutely not. This is a company. At the end of the day, it is enjoyment, it is for entertainment, but this is also a company. This is a business, and they need to handle it like so.
Well, Grant, do you think that they have the staff as of right now? I'm talking about John Gruden and the coordinator who's now in his place as head coach. Do you think they have the staff to be a successful team, or are they still missing John Gruden a lot?
I think they are missing John Gruden a lot because John Gruden's an offensive mastermind. He's the reason why the offense was firing on all cylinders as the season earlier in the season. And I know when he resigned or when he left, their offense was still playing well, but now it's starting to show. Their offense is starting to struggle now, and I think teams are figuring that out. And that's why last night the Chiefs' their defense is not that good, Kansas City, and they only gave up 14 points. So that's concerning to see that Las Vegas couldn't put up many points last night against poor Kansas City Chiefs defense.
Yeah. Before we get into picks for next week, Grant, are we allowed to say that the Chiefs are back? Are we allowed to say that?
No.
Not
Let me answer for Grant.
I need to see more consistency from them because the week before this week they beat a Aaron Rodgers-less Packers team.
Yep.
And that was a paint dry game.
That was
and then
bad.
they beat a Raiders team who their defense is suspect, and now all of a sudden their offense is not playing well. So we got to wait and see. They have a couple good games ahead of them. So if they continue to pile up more wins, then yeah, they may be back.
They're playing the Cowboys, right? Next, I think.
They still have to play Dallas, I think. I think so, yeah.
I think they do, but I want to say they're back. I thought I want to marry Patrick Mahomes. Everyone knows it, but I thought that he did great. I really think that he took the criticism of not trying to deep throw. I think his patience gave him the openings later on in the game to get those deep passes that he's so much craving. And I think he did great, and I think he's going to do great, and I think they're on a good. Anyway, I shouldn't speak too soon. You're right. Kelly, can you get us into picks for this week?
Of course. So I want to hear you guys' picks for this week's games. I know all of our viewers will already know what happens in the Monday night game since our show airs on Tuesday. But tell me who takes the win, Hannah, the Rams or the 49ers?
I think the Rams take this. I don't think the 49ers have the offense to compete with the Rams defense. I think Aaron Donald and co will definitely take this one. Grant, what do you think?
It's an historic rivalry game, but the 49ers are not even remotely close to the Rams level. The Rams will win this game going away. With that offense, their defense will be too much for that San Francisco 49ers team. Way too much.
I agree.
I agree with both of you. Rams all the way. But let's take it to Thursday's game. The Patriots against the Falcons. Grant, what's your pick?
Well, the Patriots, they are on fire right now. Did you see that
yes.
game yesterday against Cleveland? Cleveland really scored 7 points and then dipped. New England, Mac Jones, he's on a different level right now. Falcons, mediocre team. Patriots, easily.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's perfect.
You summed it up in exactly the way I would have said. It's not. I don't even have to think about it, really. Patriots by 100. And then finally, we'll see the Steelers go up against the Chargers. Hannah Jo, who wins this game?
Not the Steelers. I don't think the Steelers can do it. Not after their really rough game on Sunday against the Lions. I don't think they can do it. That tie, that was awful. I think the Chargers take it. Even though they haven't been super great in the past few games, I think they take it. Grant, what do you think?
This is an interesting game. Both teams are in the middle of the playoff race, but the Chargers, I think they'll bounce back. Justin Herbert hasn't really had any back-to-back poor performances this season. I think they'll take the dub.
And that's about all the time we have for our NFL segment. If you want to hear Ross Bernstein's perspective on the changing rules in the NBA, and I really think you will, stay with us.
I'm going with Cowboys versus Giants. Why? Because I am a New York Giants fan, and I want my first pick of the week to be my team. I see an upset for the New York Giants this Sunday. Bet your entire savings, and I'm telling you right now, they're gonna win. I don't care what you say. It's gonna happen.
I'm going to go Yankees 4-1. I think Garrett Cole's going to give them 7 shutout. It's Garrett Cole. I trust him in this type of situation.
2-1 pitch.
The Yankees lost to Boston in the wild card game, and I told Johnny if my boys lose, I'd come on the show in this.
I have to go with the Raiders, I think, for this one. I don't see them losing.
Welcome back. It is now time for our primetime picks of the week, the best segment. I'm currently doing awful, standing at 16-10, Oklahoma State and Texas. I'm going Texas 35-27.
UCF keeps the 30 points per game streak alive. I'm going to go 35-10. UCF wins.
Welcome back, everyone. We're joined now by Ross Bernstein, our resident NBA guy around HTFN. Ross, how are you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, solid Sunday night, fantasy team struggling a little bit as usual. Not going to get into that too much, but, big Elijah Mitchell and Matt Gay night tonight, just for whatever reason, if they could get, let's say, 27 fantasy points, it might be good. So, going to feel better tonight, feeling good right now.
Great. So let's get right into our topic for today, because I know that Hannah Jo and I have lots of questions for you. I want to give you some stats on the NBA season so far. So this season, the league-wide average field goal percentage is at a low since 2003. I was in kindergarten. We are seeing the lowest three percentages since 2002, and the number of free throws per game are at an all-time low. Hannah Jo, can you give us some background on what's going on with the NBA that's affecting these numbers?
I absolutely can. At the beginning of this season, there was a video made for players in the NBA, and media were also allowed to watch it, that unveiled new ways of handling potential foul calls. Now, I've heard lots of different names for what I'm talking about. Some people call it the dark arts. The official term used in the video is abnormal and overt actions. I've also heard people say non-basketball moves, but basically I'm talking about players who move in a way only to draw a foul. Examples of this would be someone shooting the ball and jumping forward into a defensive player, or somehow locking arms with a defensive player to make it look like the defender was holding the shooter's arm down, or an offensive player with the ball jumping and then angling their body so that a defender falls on top of them. Basically, the officials are now looking at who initiates the contact and whether or not the offensive player is moving in an abnormal or non-basketball way. So before I get into the specific questions, Ross, what players come to mind when you think about who this will affect the most?
I think the obvious answer is James Harden, right? Half of his points seem to come from the free throw line, if not more. He's a flopper, probably by his own volition. I think he would admit that. He gets a lot of points and a lot of foul calls because he is a superstar. So I think James Harden's been affected most by this rule because he does it not only in his three-point shots with his step backs, but when he drives, as soon as he's touched, whatever part of the body, he's going to flail his arms around and try to sell the call.
Right.
And this year, it's been a rough go for him for that, right? Because he's just so used to in those superstar calls that he's not getting. He's had to really adapt. So I think James Harden's definitely the most affected by this rule change.
Well, how long do you think it will take for James Harden to adapt?
I mean, it seems that he's already done a pretty good job so far. What are we, like 15 games in, I think, somewhere around that? It seemed like the first 10 games he was completely lost out there. It seemed like a shell of his old player, but I think, listen, at the end of the day, he's a superstar player, foul calls or not, right? I don't think anyone could deny that he's a top 10 player, even without that rule in place, with the rule, without the rule, whatever.
Yeah.
So he's going to adapt. He's going to make it work, and he's still an amazing shooter. He might not drive as much this season, which is unfortunate to see, because he knows he won't be getting those calls, but he'll adapt over time. He seems like he's been doing a pretty good job recently of it.
Yeah, well, and I want to talk about, sorry for this is going off topic a little bit, but James Harden, from what I've heard, he is an athletic player.
Yeah.
So why did he make this part of his, like, such a regular every game thing? Like, if he is a good enough player to not use this crutch, why did he make it such a big part of the way he plays?
I mean, he's athletic compared to us, but in the NBA, I wouldn't say he's one of the faster players. He's quick, but not fast, which means he has a great first step, great handle. But court to court, he's not a Russell Westbrook or a prime John Wall, prime Derrick Rose, or anything like that. So he's able to get the first step to go by you and get that step and get you on his hip. But at the end of the day, he's not going to just run right by you. So once he has you on his hip, you could catch him, but he's going to use that leverage and take you on your hip. And once he feels it, flail the arms, contact, foul, right?
Yeah.
So he's been able to use that best to his advantage, where now, just because he's on your hip doesn't mean you're going to score. So it's been a bit of an issue for him for that. But like I said, he'll adapt.
Kelly, talk about this flailing of the arms in basketball. I know we talked about it the other day.
So the other day, Hannah and I and a couple of our other friends from HTF, we attended the women's basketball game, and multiple times I turned around and I was, what was that?
Yeah.
What is with the drama? So personally watching it in the NBA, I think it's funny as well. But Ross, with James, with his antics, with his flailing of the arms, like you're saying, so how long do you think it's going to be before he returns to the caliber of a player that he was, making the points that he was making with this new rule? Or do you think he won't be able to get there?
I think he's still talented enough to get there. If I had to give a real solid estimate, I think by the All-Star break, if not a little bit past, you'll see him putting up the same numbers as he did last year, especially if Kyrie doesn't end up coming back. Right, he's still, like I said, highly talented. He'll probably take more threes this year because I don't think he wants to deal with trying to get the contact, because at the end of the day, these guys are putting their bodies on the line. They're not exactly small individuals. Right. So if I'm putting my body on the line to go in the paint and I'm not getting foul calls and I'm getting hit by a 7-foot, 240-pound man, it's not, at the end of the day, it's just the cost-benefit analysis. It's just not going to work out for him. He's probably going to take more threes, but he's a great three-point shooter. There's a reason why he's already one of the top 10 players in the NBA. So hopefully by the midpoint of the season, All-Star break, he'll be back to true form.
Well, I'm so glad we have a finance bro here to tell us all of that stuff.
Finance bro, of course.
So Kelly, I want to ask you first, but then Ross, I also want to hear from you on this philosophical question I've got for you. These rules, these new ways of perceiving these calls, does it make basketball, does it get it back to the place where it was originally intended to be played?
I think you could say yes and no, because if you look back in the day, as Ross was saying to me the other day, they used to be able to do the touch
Hand checks.
Hand checks, yeah. So it was a little aggressive back then, and now you're not allowed to do that. I think it is getting back to the original way it was intended to be played, but you still need to keep an eye on the guys and the risky fouls, because could this even lead to potential more injuries if we're not calling things? It's something we're going to have to keep a close eye on this season and see how it works for the league.
Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, sure, it's getting closer to the intentioned way of playing, but that way was boring to watch in the 1950s and 60s. I'm not watching that anymore. No one wants to watch that, right? Steph Curry is not the intentional way of playing basketball. They didn't intend to shoot 35-foot three-pointers. So sure, is it what they intended? Maybe it might be moving closer, but that's not what
Were we
the
intended
fans
to
want to
see
watch.
a million free throws a game?
How many free throws? I mean, free throws are not exciting.
For the
They're
drama?
They're
For
not.
the antics?
You're so right, Kelly.
Yeah, no. Free throws are like, it makes you feel like you're watching football, a million different commercials, but no more, I don't need more football slander, I guess.
Okay, well, I understand why free throw numbers are down. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Why are field goals and three-point percentages down, Ross? Is there a separate issue going on, or is it really just this new idea?
So there could be a couple things. The first thing is pertaining to what we've been talking about. They're just not getting the foul call. So at the end of the day, they're flailing their arms, throwing the ball in the air, not getting the foul call. They're not going to make the shot. So that can naturally just move the shot down because, listen, Dwayne Wade coined the move, in my opinion. Pump fake, lean, and shoot. He didn't make most of them, but he got to the line. They're still doing that, but now at the three-point line. They're doing it mid-range. They're doing it everywhere. They're just trying to draw contact, but they're not getting the calls. So they're not making the shots. So that could drive the points down. Another reason that not a lot of people are talking about is the basketball has changed this year. Players have been complaining. They are no longer Spalding balls. They are Wilson balls, which at the end of the day is not a huge deal, but players like Joel Embiid have complained. They said just the feel is different. You could expect the three-point shots to just not fall because, I mean, anyone that plays basketball knows if you switch the ball mid-game, it feels like a completely different sport. It could be the same one, but different sport. And then Kevin Durant, when they asked him, he's like, feels the same to me. So obviously there's some players that are not being affected by this. Some are. But when someone like Joel Embiid saying it's taking time for him to adjust, it might be something the NBA has to look at. But obviously sponsors are sponsors, right? They're not changing the ball back.
Right.
The ball is a Wilson ball. So
yeah.
That could be an issue.
Yeah. Kelly, do you have any closing thoughts on this before we wrap it up?
I'm excited to see how the year plays out without the stupid fouls, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So I can't wait, because who are these star players without their easy foul points?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's
Yeah,
find
I'm
out.
right there with you. Yeah, well, we will not see you next week, but we will the week after. I don't know. I can't do math right now, but just keep an eye out for us. Girls on Deck is done for this week, but we will see you soon.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats.